Sana pagpalain ka. Sana pagpalain ka. Sana pagpalain ka. My name is Roque, and I am a Filipino immigrant. My family and I have traveled across thousands of miles and through many years to become the American family we are now. But I find myself longing for the past and clinging to the pieces of who we used to be. Here in America, we've changed for the best in so many ways, but I cannot help but feel that we lost too much. And I wonder, endlessly, how we can get some of it back.
The ginger, you don't have to cut in small pieces. Usually we cut it in strip,
Yeah.
but because some people they don't like it, so we can.
So leave it
before
a
you-
big chunk so you can take it out?
We have better chance here overseas than back home, because back home there's so many educated people and competition is really stiff. That's why we decided to leave Philippines. I want my children to have a better future, to get a better education, and as a family, I want to have a better chance. It will be soft, about 5 minutes. Okay, it's covered. Well, I think as a part of our culture, we have to keep our language alive. And besides, children, if they're bilingual, that's an asset for them when they go to school or find a job. They have another dialect, language that they can speak. And when your children can speak your language, you can speak with them, even if you're outside or with other people and something you don't want other people to hear about something, you can talk to them in your language, and that's fun.
Make a wish! Make a wish! Blow!
Blow, Victoria, blow! Nacho.
Oh my gosh. Those are the fake ones.
Trick
Yay!
Yeah, I want them to keep in mind, or my children, my kids, to tell their children, my grandchildren, the importance of family. You know, the closeness. But I want them to keep that value, be family first, and those tradition that we used to have, which we lost, most of them. When they were growing up, they used to do that, but because they're the only one doing it, they skipped it. They quit doing it. Like blessing, those kind of things. I love doing that, you know, for my kids. But you cannot force them to do that with my grandchildren now, because their parents quit doing it. But there are some tradition and culture that I hope they can keep, and I hope my children still remember those and pass it to their children. That's my big wish being a Filipino.
I don't actually know all the details of my mom coming here, and she's probably never going to tell me all the details. I have certain ideas about it. I have more the sense that my mom falls more under the category of having been trafficked over, which happens to a lot of people, but it's not recognized as such because it's sanctioned by the military. Like, soldiers go to another country and bring back some woman, you know? So my mom came over in a similar situation. I'm not quite sure details of it, but she was pregnant with an American soldier's baby or whatever, and he brought her back to this country even though he was already married. I kind of grew up in Appalachia, and there was a small handful of black kids at my school. It was all white kids, and it was terrible. There's a name that the kids called me all the time. Like, whether I was like walking down the hallway or just minding my own business, they were always trying to harass me. Sometimes it comes up like, randomly, like maybe in a cartoon or in some kind of media, or sometimes it'll come up, but rarely. And whenever I hear it, like, it gets very, I get very weird. But kind of in this way of equating me to being like primitive, like a caveman.
That's kind of big.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, oh my god.
Catfish.
Oh my god. That's awesome.
Things I would do with my mom was not very much, because even though for most of my life until a couple years ago, she has not had citizenship in this country, she's always worked. And it wasn't always like the nicest jobs, but she was always working and always busy. My brother and I lived with her when we could, but when we started high school, I guess, when I started high school, my brother's a year older. I moved back in with my dad's mom, and technically my dad, but I hardly ever see him. Like, I would go months at a time without seeing him. But he was a white guy, and through most of my younger days, he just mostly wanted to like hang out in his room and smoke weed and listen to records and talk to girls on the phone and go out at night, sort of thing. Which is kind of fucked up that here my mom's not a citizen and is working all the time. My brother and I weren't raised with a whole lot of Filipino culture. I guess in this way of like, well, we're here in this country and we're gonna do what people in this country do.
When I was growing up, there was sort of like a parallel Filipino family. So also like a Filipino doctor, American white mother, and they had children too. They were like the same ages as like our kids, and including the surprise daughter at the end.
Wow. So you would get together and just have
We would get together all the time.
dinners
We would hang out all the time, like pretty much every week. Or we lived in different towns at a certain point, and then we lived in the same towns. We were always like spending time together, or going on vacations together. And so there would always be rice, but most of the time it was just American food that we would make, unless it was a special occasion. And then we'd make pancit, or we'd do like adobo or things like that. Those were kind of like the main ones that we would do. So it was my dad, who was born in the Philippines, and he met my mom, who was working in a hospital. My father had come to the United States in the early 60s to become a doctor.
Oh, wow.
So he had been already through medical school, and he came to the United States to do his residency. And during that time, there were lots of doctors being welcomed because there was a shortage of doctors in the United States. And so my parents met, and they fell in love, and then there was a baby. But for my father, there was kind of like, I don't know if it was like kind of like a struggle for him to like be understood. Like, he had a very like thick accent, and still kind of does. And like, you know, some people just like have a certain understanding of language, and like language is like music. You know, it's like you have an ear for it or you don't have an ear for it. Like, some people really are really good at accents and things like that. And like my father just wasn't one of those people. It's like he, I think, always kind of maintained his accent, and it was always kind of like a struggle for people to understand what he was saying.
And you got to sort of see him try to work through that growing up.
Yeah. It was always kind of like a struggle, and like sometimes it was embarrassing for me. Sometimes, like my mother would sometimes like make fun of him. I remember like her sending him to like speech lessons at one time, so like he could.
Wow.
I mean, I feel like now I would have liked more Filipino culture in my life, or at least to be able to like speak, you know, some of the language or my father's dialect, which, you know, his dialect is not even like a written language. Now it's like which, you know, I recognize that there's like importance in preserving like those cultures, so they don't die, you know. But his language in particular is not, I don't think it's even like, it's not a written language, it's a spoken language.
Maybe the answer is in the doing. When we use our hands to cook our food and set our tables. When we gather together to build a community and share our stories. When we teach our dances and speak in our native tongues. Maybe then, when the tides of change rise and wash all over us, all will not be lost. I think about our future here in America, with our Filipino daughters and sons to come. All we have to give to you is our love and all of the traditions we have held so dear for so long. And now I look forward into that distance, and I say, Sana, pagpalain ka. I wish that you will be blessed.